Today's guest, first off, before jumping in, a thank you to Amanda 𝗏𝗏, the communication manager over at Sterling Bay. She took our cold email, was actually able to put us in touch with today's guest. He is the Chief Design Officer at Sterling Bay, that small development company you may have heard of around here. He oversees the design of Lincoln Yards. It's a 53-acre development. It's going to transform the former industrial corridor along the Chicago River. It'll be a beautiful mixed-use community connecting Lincoln Park and 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃. Fun fact, he's also the co-owner of Four Corners Taverns. So if you've been to a Brick House after a Cubs game or West End before a Bulls-Hawks game, this is an establishment that this gentleman owns. And Mark, most importantly, a U of I grad, so obviously we're in good company here. Without further ado, Matt Mena, welcome to the show. Matt, how are we doing today?
We're good. Thanks for having me, Tom and Mark. Appreciate it.
We are super excited to have you. So there's so much to cover here. We can talk for hours on this giant development. But I guess to start, square one, can you give us just the backstory, some context of, that area there, the history on the Chicago River, the old steel mills, and maybe even just define the boundaries of what Lincoln Yards is going to be?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, we hit on it in the intro. Right between Bucktown and Lincoln Park, there happens to be a nice stretch of river that meanders through the two, and it's been an industrial corridor for a really long time. And as you might know, the city's very focused on the river in itself. The stats are about $4 billion in investment over the last 25 years to remediate pollution. So development along the river has always been a focus of the city. Certainly, we're Chicagoans ourselves at Sterling Bay. A lot of us live in those neighborhoods and have been watching that terrain. And Andy Glover in particular had specific interest in watching that and activating that land. And as a few parcels came about, it piqued our interest at the firm, and we started thinking about what could be done there. Much better use as the industrial uses had started to wait a little bit. So, long story short, the land slowly became available. We started picking at it and aggregating parcels, and we're able to peel apart a couple big ones, and started our engines inside of Sterling Bay saying, hey, how do you go about something of this scale and size to create a master plan community? Ultimately, a small city inside a city. So that's the basis of what we're after. We love the location between those very prominent communities. So basically being able to link together those was something that was a challenge to us and exciting.
You made it sound so easy, putting this big, huge parcel together. You just made and that had to give us an idea of how many years was that, and then how many parcels did that ultimately end up being, or how many pins or how many owners did you have to put together?
Yeah, not an easy step for sure. Process began in 2016 and ultimately took just over 3 years. So it was an assemblage of north of 20 different parcels. 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃 itself was one of the largest pieces, and 𝗏𝗏𝗃, where the city held some of their back of house for salting and maintaining the city roads. Those were the primary parcels, but there's many other pieces that came together inside the plan development, which we can get into later, and then a few others that we own outside of the plan development. But ultimately, to answer your question, it was just over 3 years that it took from aggregating the parcels to getting the city to agree to a plan to activate that land under an RDA and a plan development. That was in April of 2019.
That's crazy. That's 3 years, and it's 2023, so it's even 4 years later. That's just, that timeline is just, we have 19-year-olds that listen to the show sometimes that, heck, they're in third grade when you started. But how, I look at this from a developer standpoint, you start putting this together, was the vision there right away? Was this hey, if we this is very valuable land, if we put it together, clean it up, someone will take it? What's the mindset early on from a developer standpoint?
Yeah. We didn't quite know the density that would be coming to something like this. We did know that we loved the land. Again, most of us lived in Lincoln Park or Bucktown. All the principals of the firm, many of our employees lived in there. So clear as day, that's great land to own. When we got into the actual master planning, the community process kind of kicked in and got us to where we're at with what was approved with the city. And as we could get into that as well, but as you can imagine, a lot of the constituents had demands. Open space was one of them. Being good stewards of the land itself and of the river itself were important. And then unlocking congestion and other initiatives that are troubling to the communities. We all had to get into that. But I think up front, we just knew valuable land, great proximity. We are all Chicagoans, love the city itself. It's a good thing to kind of probe and own, and we can find ways to monetize it appropriately. But as we went into the process, that's how the master plan started coming about, which did get more vertical, which was a function of us listening to the constituents, to the communities, and giving them open space, and then finding a way to get the value we needed out of it by going a little bit more vertical with the master plan itself.
Yep. So let's talk about that community involvement, right? So when you first take over the land, there's going to be requests, there's going to be some pushback. How do you guys proactively go about that, right? Do you come to the table saying, by the way, you're going to get, X, Y, Z, or is it truly an open forum where, hey, there's no bad ideas, let's listen to everyone and then come back with a plan? Like what, most of our people are not used to these large developments. What's the best way to get that buy-in so everyone can be on the same page moving ahead?
Yeah, well, there's quite a crew that were involved. Obviously, our legal and land planners, and you surround yourselves with a good team first. So all of our support from outside legal, the different lobbyists and people that know the constituents, the different aldermen, as you know, our city's based on an aldermanic system, and Brian Hopkins in particular had the majority of this property under his oversight. So we immediately engaged with the aldermen and the various aldermen that touched it. And then, they all have community groups and neighborhood groups. So I think there was just an honest approach to being direct. We live in these neighborhoods. We're going to communicate. We're going to get engaged. So we started mapping out various ideas on the master plan. We engaged Skidmore, Owens & Merrill, SOM, to start thinking about how to activate this land and integrating these community groups and aldermen. And it did get into quite a rigorous process with everybody. But it ultimately was up to us to present something that we thought would be functional and practical for everybody, for people to live, work, and play, as they say. So we presented a master plan that opened up dialogue, and everybody started digging in. A lot of opinions, as you can imagine, and a lot of process.
Yep. And when you're going through that, because this is a 10-year thing, how do you weigh that against, okay, now we have to do a park, now we have to do this, and how do you weigh that against, this is still profitable, this will still be okay, right? It's so far in the future, it seems almost, I can't fathom saying oh yeah, this won't kill us on the bottom line, we'll be able to make these concessions. Who's doing that? Who? Yeah. A huge budget team?
Sure. Asset management has that responsibility at any development firm. And ours are just incredible people, incredible group. And you start your modeling process. So you take that master plan by Skidmore and you start to layer on what your rights are and what you think you can achieve, and putting pencils down into a model. So we did that, right? We started putting pencil to paper using, what we know and what we think we can do. And we did have some parallels, as you know. We had all of our achievements in Fulton Market. And the main correlation between the two is buying early land in undeveloped areas and forecasting what could be built. But your basis is everything. In real estate, your basis matters. And in Fulton Market, when we started aggregating land on the Google site, was our first major acquisition in Fulton Market. Once we knew we had Google and the lease, we quickly acquired about another 30 different sites. So we had 30 plus sites. My point though is that the average basis on per foot for land was about 150 a foot in Fulton Market. And that's something that gives you confidence as a developer when you have a good basis that you can withstand some time and still make a return. But yeah, you're right. You're always just forecasting and best guess. It did translate to the same exact premise over at Lincoln Yards though. We were acquiring land in that roughly 150 a foot range. So we just know we love Chicago, we love the location, and we think the opportunity, regardless of timeline, when you own great land, you have a good chance.
Got it. No, that makes complete sense. And we are going to touch on some of the parallels and differences between Fulton Market and Lincoln Yards. Before going there, though, this, if I'm not mistaken, this was a like 5-year remediation process, right? So you get the community involvement, you get this thing actually off the ground and moving from thought to idea. Where are we in the process? And just talk to us like that. That's so long. That's so much work. Like, it's hard for a lot of our guys that are smaller developers. Talk to us about the scale and just what had to be done and what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's massive. 53 acres is the planned development. And again, we own additional land, not to mention the former use, industrial use with steel mills and tanneries and different businesses that are very taxing on the land itself. So we knew going in it was going to be a big lift. We do own one other master plan community development that I was active with out in Utah. Not many people know that we own a private resort community out near Deer Valley in Park City called Victory Ranch. But Victory Ranch is 6,700 acres versus 53. And there was a little parallel there of what we had to do as far as cleaning up some land and then putting in infrastructure and then amenitizing and then ultimately going vertical and selling out. So this actually is our second master plan community, and we were eyes wide open on modeling and thinking about it. In particular to this site and the land and remediation, a monstrous task. Fortunately, in some spots, there was some great slab work done by some of these operators. So we were just pulling out concrete and the ground underneath was relatively healthy, but that's not the case in general. I mean, overall, a very tough site. I think the numbers were 36 underground storage tanks that we removed, 7.2 tons of hazardous soil, contaminated soil, 69,000 tons of concrete that we recycled, which was a great story. We're able to pull it out and get some reuse. So, just really dealing with soil, concrete, and then making sure we're also, again, being good stewards of the river. You just want to make sure that you're hiring the right firms and bringing that material out and not letting it impact the river at all, because that's a big deal for us, making sure that we're eco-friendly as much as we could the whole way. And where we stand now is it's completely done. Every bit of the site is remediated and under control, and we spent about $9 million doing it.
Was there any hiccups or oh shit moments with the remediation? Anything that was uncovered that you weren't expecting, or the scope get deeper at any point, or did you kind of have it all the front end figured out?
A lot of planning in front, but you always hit a tank you never knew. You can only soil test so much. So I think it's the tanks that are typically the surprise, and then the condition of those tanks if they have bad material in them. So the tanks are always in remediation a surprise. You can never find them all. You can never scan or soil test to get them all. So that definitely, there were some curveballs there.
Wow, that's amazing. We do a lot of industrial, and we do get to the phase 2, and you have to pull a tank on a 14,000 square foot lot. Like, that is like a year project for us to get that deal to the closing table. So like the magnitude of what you guys did is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, a quick aside, we own a little bar in Fulton Market called 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And when we built that ground up, we went down to put a basement in and hit a tank. You don't think when you have a small project going that you have to really do much soil testing. And that tank, again, was, problematic. It was quite a shift in, you're ready to keep rolling on your construction and you have to now deal with something. So that's what you get with 53 acres, though. You get a bunch of surprises.
So as the project has gone on, what would you say the sentiment has been from those community groups going back, 3 or 4 years? Like, even to where it was now, more in line and excited, opposing you every day and being at ends. I guess where, someone like me, I'm stoked for this thing, right? You hear developers everywhere and say, wow, this is great for Chicago. We're on the map, baby. I assume, though, we still have people who don't feel that way.
I think they were very fair, and I put myself in their shoes. We all do here at Sterling Bay, recognizing they care like we do about the city and want to make sure that what's done is right and what's done is healthy and what's done is an improvement and progress for the city. Their main focus, though, was open space. I would say that any urban city like us, if you can gain parks and recreation space and walkability, and the ability to activate a river. All of those were really, really high on their list. The ones that linger still, and the concerns I think that, again, are fair, is congestion. So it's always noise, congestion, and just, obviously what people can do in the space. That's to be determined. Obviously, we feel comfortable. We've been running all kinds of traffic studies, and we feel we can unlock that pretty congested area already by adding the 3 bridges that we plan to do. And our consultants are top notch and feel that we can improve the situation that exists right now after being fully built, which you say 10 years, I don't know. We've already been in this for north of 5 years, and I think we have north of 10 years left. But I think that's it. I think it's more traffic related and the concerns of just added congestion in that area, because it's not a comfortable environment right now. Getting on and off the highway, dealing with the metro station, and there's a lot of really tough traffic lanes right now. We think we'll open it up really nicely. That's part of the story going forward.
That's awesome. So you guys can take something that they're against and a current problem, like it's not congested there right now. So you're able to actually maybe improve on that as part of your offering to the community. That's awesome.
But it's counterintuitive, right? I mean, to see that, a lot of people are going into our marketing center now, which is a converted firehouse over there on site.
Yeah.
Really cool. And we're going to start opening that to the public at least once a quarter, hopefully once a month going forward, once we get things rolling downhill a little bit more. But yeah, I think they'll understand when they see all that vertical, their reaction is going to be, oh boy, more congestion. But we're also going to be, ready to walk them through the really healthy transit plans that we have and the different ways we're going to get people to move around it and show that it's going to be a pretty good experience.
Anyone listening that wants to open up a bike shop in one of the retails, sell some bikes, here we go, right here. You can be part of the plan.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, we could get into the 606. I think that's a massive piece of this story. And you're right on. I think the bikers are going to win.
Well, let's talk about the 606, right? Like, how does that play into this development?
A huge piece of the story. Yeah, and that's not going to be the easy one for us. We've been working hard. We don't want
to... Real quick, sorry, man, take one step back. We've covered the 606 multiple times. We had a Logan Square episode. But just for those who don't know, what is the 606 trail?
Yeah, and the 606 right now is about, if I understand, about 2.6 miles that goes basically from 294, the highway, 294, right about, just south of Armitage, right, where it ends in what is called now Walsh Park. It's just a public amenity that was built on an old rail system, and it's amazing. It's just a public access, walkable, bikeable trail system that heads west. And it's like the High Line in New York, or if you go into Atlanta, there's the Belt Line. Most cities now are using these abandoned railway systems or other trail systems to create a recreational amenity for neighborhoods. This one's incredible. I think the thing that is lacking is obviously any type of amenitization. You kind of just travel west or come back east, and there's no off ramp to go to any F&B. There's no restroom systems and all that. So what we're excited about and highly confident that will get done is taking from the Walsh Park right now, that 606, again, the bike and pedestrian trail system, and we're going to connect it all the way to the east side of the river. And we're going to do that by going under the highway and under the railroad, the metro line itself. We're going to have to go under and then bring it towards the river on the south side of the river. And we'll bring that into our south side of our development, and then also link it over on a new, really large bridge that we're fully designed on that links the south and north across the river of Lincoln Yards, and have dedicated bike lanes the whole way. So that's really it. The pedestrian and biking experience from that current 606 recreational trail system will now be connected to across the highway, and then we'll link it across the river. There will be, those two barriers were really it, the highway and the river. So if we can get that done, we end up giving the city of Chicago one of the best recreational amenities of any city, period. I mean, I've been on most of them in a lot of these cities. This will be a special one, because what we'll add at Lincoln Yards also is the amenitization, a direct link to get food and beverage or hang out in our park system, which is, a 12-acre park. and recreate and use restroom facilities and everything else that I think that they need. And yes, whoever's online listening, a bike shop would probably be successsul.
There you go. Man, so that is a ton. One little side note, but I wanted to ask on it because you got me curious. It sounds like you guys are also handling the park directly, right? Like Chicago Park District is not going to, you offered it to them, they said no, so you privatize it and have to handle all the landscaping, all the green that you're going to do directly. Is that common for these large developments? Like how did we end up in that boat where it's not just part of the larger city landscape?
Yeah, a great question. And no, it's not common at all. Very rare. Most cities would, undertake and keep the common area themselves, but it was part of the deal we cut and something that we're very comfortable with. But I want to outline that of our 53 acres, 22 are going to be open and recreational space. About half of that is along river walks. So we're going to have river walks and pocket parks, setting largely independent bike lanes and pedestrian walkways throughout the entire Licking Yards community. But more so, we're anchoring one major recreational park in the center of the entire master plan. So an 11 to 12 acre park, the river dissects that, so part is on the north and south of the river, that we're going to activate with every single type of use. So we're bringing in pickleball courts, we're bringing in amphitheaters, we're bringing in a really great kayak and rowing launch facility with concessionaire and public restrooms throughout, not to mention all of the recreational sporting elements such as softball and soccer and things like that. And then setting it up for success. So hopefully we can activate it. We certainly just don't want to put in amazing green space and not activate it. We're going to want to run some festivals and farmers markets and try and think about how we give back to the community and make this a true place that everyone wants to enjoy and aggregate and have fun. So a ton of thought has gone into the public space. I'll just give you, the two teams I want to shout out to is James Corner Field Operations, which is one of the best landscape architects in the world, based in London, helped us on Licking Yards North on the half of the park. And then Site Design, a Chicago team, worked on the south. The parks and the designs, if we can find a way to release those in whatever state they're at, they're pretty far through design development. They're amazing. Probably the biggest, I think, shock and awe for everyone is going to be the money and effort and thought that went into those parks. That said, to your point, we have the obligation to manage and operate and maintain those parks, and we're excited about it. It has its own independent HOA run by us, and governed by a team of people that will probably be large tenants in the community, either in residential or commercial. So we'll have an HOA board, but it's a private, massive park system and extremely rare.
Daniel Burnham would be proud.
Yeah, right on.
That's awesome. I just picture myself, those Saturdays when it's nice out, where do you want to take the kids? And I'm looking on the phone, where's the nearest fest I can get them to, right? Just looking for somewhere to walk around and do something for 4 hours. And here you go. Like you have this right here in front of you. So that's awesome. So we talked a little about, working with the community. How was it working with the city? It sounds like it was like a 500 or 600 page agreement. So a lot of lawyers involved, right? It sounds like the city has been behind this from the get-go, but just talk to us a little about, I don't want to say fighting, but maneuvering the bureaucratic red tape. Getting a permit for like a 3-unit is tough. So times a billion here.
Yeah, we won't get too deep into politics. I don't think that's too proper, but I would break it into 3 main constituents. I think that we have, at a local level, you have the alderman. And again, Brian Hopkins was really great to work with, had good vision, promoting our view of business and work and play, and really supportive and productive. Michelle Smith was also great, and now 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is now coming in, and I actually am meeting with him tomorrow at our firehouse to get him up to speed, and he's been great. So I think the aldermen have all been very supportive in their own ways, and we like them challenging us on certain things. There's a healthy dialogue, to say the least, and with them come the community groups. The next constituent is the Department of Planning and Development. which we have a great relationship with. And, that's turned over, and you have Maurice Cox and Melvin Wesley and Cindy and everybody in that group, super talented and just have everything, I think, in the right mindset of let's make Chicago incredible. They have a new process. We've adapted to it. It's a little bit more invasive, but I think in a good way. They truly care about architecture, and that's a topic, I lead. We're doing amazing architecture. They're participating with us on it. And our relationship with DPD is very, very strong and collaborative. Really can't say enough about how that's progressing. And we're embracing that. So DPD and Sterling Bay, I think, have a really unique relationship right now. I hear them say sometimes that on certain things we're the poster child for the city, which is a goal, right? We want to do everything at the highest level and be held accountable. And I think they're doing that with us. I think sometimes they're tough on us, and I get it. We have that. And then the last piece, of course, is dealing with the mayor's office. And, by all means, we went from a Rahm Emanuel to a Lori Lightfoot, and, Rahm was supportive of Lincoln Yards, and we made a lot of progress. I think Lori and Samir and the team came in. It took a while to get their arms around it. They have new systems, new process. I guess I'll admit, I think last year was a struggle with Sterling Bay on that front a little bit as we were working on some infrastructure financing. And I feel we were set back a little bit working through some extra process there, to be frank. But we got through it. Ultimately, their office, did come through, and they're supporting us, and they signed off on a few things in particular in December that will allow us to now get this infrastructure, which is critical path to get going. And we're excited about it. Yeah. So, you never know who's in office, but the mayor role is really, really critical path for Lincoln Yards. We'll always try and work really well with the mayor and the deputy mayor. And, this again is going to be 10 more years. So we'll be dealing with probably multiple mayors. So all in all, that's a mouthful on that front, but governance in Chicago is, getting their arms around these master plans. There's ours and there's the 78. They're complex, and, we're moving. We just hope whoever is in the seat understands, we're deep-rooted. Chicago is trying to do great stuff. It leads to very good outcomes for Chicago. We're all in this together. And, pace is important. So that would be my only nudge. We all got to keep moving.
Yeah, no, great message. Well said. If I was in your shoes and someone asked me that, I feel I would not have answered it nearly as eloquently. I would be the guy dropping F-bombs. All right. So, Matt, you mentioned, being the poster child of Chicago. You guys are known for Fulton Market, right? And when I hear the term Fulton Market, I think of, man, Sterling Bay just took everything west of the loop there and blew it up in a good way. So what were you able, where's the connection there, right? When I mean the connection is the work that was done at Fulton Market, was there a lot of learning lessons there of going into Lincoln Yards? Or are these projects so different that, they're kind of two separate projects that just both happen to be in Chicago?
I think that the tie-in is placemaking. When you think about any type of environment where you're aggregating land sites and you're thinking about your commitment as a developer, if you're not thinking about a holistic experience, I think it's a mistake. And I think it's a strength of Sterling Bay is thinking about the human experience at whatever level. So with 30 sites sprinkled through Fulton Market, we almost felt obligated to ensure that we were the gatekeeper of what this could be. And there's other developers doing great stuff, right? There's a lot of our peers that have contributed to that evolution of Fulton Market, but there's no doubt we felt pressure on our shoulders to make sure that it worked. And what that relates to is mix. You want to make sure that the retail component and retail arteries are strong and make sense. I think the city has jumped in and done some really good stuff there. Making sure that your mix of office versus residential is intuitive and fits demand. I think that we've done a great job there. There were some things that were holding back some components, not to get off topic too much, but for a while north of Lake, north of the L tracks, there was almost a moratorium per se on residential. And now that's opened up and you're going to start to see that, which we think is extremely healthy. You can't just have all office. So it kind of goes to what I was saying. You think about an area and you think about how to make it healthy long-term, you have to have the right balance and mix of elements. And Fulton Market is probably the hottest sub-neighborhood of any city in the United States, hands down. And you could get it from the stats. I'm not the office guy, but it's the healthiest office market, I think, right now in the country. It's known as being probably one of the best retail corridors, an emerging retail corridor. So it's not just restaurants only. Now retail's coming in, other types of retail coming in. So, and you guys know, you live here. We'll walk around on Randolph, on Fulton, on Green Street, some of the main arteries. It's the busiest, urban market I've ever seen. It's incredible. So the transformation we're really proud of. It's been quick in an urban setting to get something like that to evolve to where it's at right now in 7 years. That's light speed. It's been cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And looking forward to you guys doing the same here at Lincoln Yards. So this started before COVID. I'm sick of talking about COVID, but at some point, like, your thought process had to have changed, right? Like, we go through this lockdown, the whole working from home, everything is, the new normal, the new whatever, however people want to label it. Any of that play into this master plan at Lincoln Yards, right? Or was it always full steam ahead with, no, we believe in what we're putting out here? Like, were there any adjustments because of the pandemic?
We were pretty smart up front, getting a lot of flexibility built into the plan development. So every parcel has optionality to go either residential, commercial, and within commercial, of course, we could do life science or office or whatever we want. So there's some constraints. We can't have more than 50% be residential, but by and large, the way that the chips kind of move around, we have that optionality, which is helpful to us. COVID, COVID is impacting office, no doubt about it. And that's one of our core businesses, but there's a lot of ways to think about it. I happen to think this will improve steadily over time. The fact that I don't want to get into this too much. I have a pretty strong opinion, but I think that the worker now is demanding flexibility. I think that's a great thing, right? And people will still find that whoever works hard and produces will most likely rise up the ladder, right? So all of that still, those general tenets fall in place. Do people use office versus home? Do they go in on Mondays and Fridays? Do they work weekends? We'll see. The strategies we're using are interesting. We're trying to just really lean into what we've been doing for 5 years, which is highly amenitizing office and making them exceptional workplaces. And it's almost unfair when you sit in our office. Everyone's back at Sterling Bay. 100% of our staff is back in the office, but it's a little easier here. You could come and visit our office. It's fun. Great culture, great environment, great amenities, but that's what we're trying to produce for others too, is help them find new ways of attracting attracting employees. That's really what is our mantra, right? Make these mousetraps, make these buildings, these facilities that are great for these companies to not only retain staff, but to attract staff. Now the shift real quick, we were getting very dense in the office space. We are almost down to 100 square foot per person. And I think that is the new trend. So maybe a user has less people coming in, but they're going to require a little more elbow room. So there's a little bit of offset, to be frank, in the office space on that front. And then sometimes, people are spending a little bit more on amenity space and things like that. So I think office is here to stay. I think it's just now who can build great product. We feel very confident, that's our core business, and we're excited about the future of office. I do have concerns about older business districts and older product. I think there's going to be some hard times for some of those environments.
I agree.
Yeah, that seems to be the common, for people like yourself who are in the know, that seems to be the common motif, right? The A+ stuff, still very high demand. The vintage building that has not been touched in, whatever district, not so much, right? And maybe that needs to be reimagined a little bit. So it seems the strong will get stronger, if that makes sense, if I summed it up correctly.
Yeah, and there'll be opportunity too. There'll be some great buildings that come around that people want to, come in and clean up or change use. There'll be great conversions from office to residential, things like that. So I think there's a lot of faith out there in a lot of different places. Yeah, it's just, you got to have people that are willing to be a little innovative and people that want to invest. I think that's what makes the world go round, right? Finding firms, many firms like us and others that want to find great building stock and make those buildings reactivated with whatever use makes most sense. So it'll happen.
Good stuff. All right. So Matt, talk to us a little bit about just what does this mean for Chicago? Right? I'm excited about this because it's a cool place that I get to go. It makes us look awesome in the city, but I'm sure you guys have a whole team out there, right, that says it's going to drive economic development by X. It's going to bring in X amount of tax. Can you share some of just those for the city as a whole? Even if someone's never going to go to Lincoln Yards, why is this a good thing? What are some of the long-term benefits of a large-scale development like this done right?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I think that's the message to our political teams in Chicago, our mayor, our future mayors. When companies like Sterling Bay or Related or others want to lean in and put a massive effort into something for a long period of time, I think the support is critical. The impact to budgets, the impact to labor are just huge. The tax revenue that we would generate. So we have numbers. Yes, we have teams of people estimating. We feel it's about $5 billion of impact for Lincoln Yards itself into the Chicago market through a bunch of fronts of revenue. We think 23,000. The current stat right now is 23,000 permanent jobs will be created. 10,000 full-time construction jobs, and then you just get into the tax. I mean, Chicago unfortunately can use a little bit of support on the economic front. This is part of the solution. These master plan communities are, if you do things in small doses, takes a lot. If we can get this thing full steam, we'll have 5 cranes in the air this year. We'll have just immense amount of people, and that's all the different constituents that we're working with, right? The minority and women entities that we're working with, that you can't ignore that. We've already committed $37 million worth of different minority and women-owned contractor spend and growing. And we just got to get the machine moving. We gotta activate this project, and it is. I mean, you're gonna see a lot of activity this year, but financial impact, tax impact, labor impact, it's almost impossible to ignore it. It's massive.
Well, I just think about the impact on the smaller investors. People that have the confidence that you guys are doing this billions of dollar job. It's like, oh man, if they're willing to put that type of risk in it, because I mean, we're not even talking about the risks that you guys put out there on a venture like this. If you guys are willing to do this, I mean, that means something's good's got to be happening around it, and I'm willing to put my money into it, or I'm willing to develop this office building down the street, or I'm willing to even rehab that 3-flat down the street because the entire neighborhood has another 60 years of life in it just because of your one project that's going in there. So that's the boost that you can never calculate that.
It's interesting. Obviously we're biased. This is our project. We're excited about it. But I can't find a way that people generally lose. Everyone wins. The city wins. We win. All the contractors win. The neighbors win. Everybody's gaining something really special, and it economically is a boom for the city. I really can't put my finger on where this goes the wrong direction. I mean, it is just such a benefit to Chicago and to the neighborhood. I mean, it's just, if we can do what we say and we think we're right, it mitigates traffic. And, it's just a really forceful thing for Chicago to get behind.
It's a benefit on a global level for Chicago even too. It just ends up in my YouTube feeds, 10 mega projects going on, this and that. And you guys end up in those countdowns of just some random YouTuber that's somewhere else in the world. And that's great. Again, that's another you can't calculate that number in any projection of what just being randomly ending up on the global front of the storyline is awesome. And it's in a positive way. So,
yeah, let's talk about this for a little bit, right? So, Chicago media, the media on Chicago is typically, violence, corruption, right? It's usually when you're not from around here, it's usually negative. And this is having a huge impact. So you, personally, Matt, take yourself out of Lincoln Yards for a little bit, just as someone who is in Chicago deciding this is where I'm going to anchor. Why are you bullish on Chicago, right? Like, what is the, you know, I can go on for hours on this, but let's hear it from you. Like, why are you bullish on this city and anchoring here?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking to a fifth generation, if that matters, guy. I grew up in the west suburbs, actually next door to Andy Glover growing up. For those that don't know, we shared a fence. So our history is pretty deep, but my family, you know, has been here forever. And we all went to Oak Park High School. My great-grandfather, grandparents, my parents, I did, and even my nieces and nephews all went to Oak Park High School. So deep-rooted and believing it. I think this city's absolutely recognized already is one of the best cities in the world, right? I mean, if you look at just the natural landscape, the lake, you know, all of our beaches, the way the grid is set up, the architecture is known as some of the best architecture globally already. And then you layer on all the programming. We have great sports teams. We have great F&B, you know, great transit. So it's already there. I think what you're kind of tiptoeing into maybe is, you know, what's happened and how does it rebound? Maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but, you know, Chicago deserves to be a safer city. And, you know, it will be. I mean, I think everything's a little bit cyclical. I have faith. We have faith that, you know, the energy will turn back towards making sure we're putting resources towards making sure that the city is safe. Because right now, no doubt about it, we used to be known as a mob city, right? And that was the risk, you know, Al Capone might get you or something like that. And, you know, but now it's getting tagged. There's a lot of urban environments right now not healthy on the crime front. It's not just Chicago, but the focus has to go there. I mean, we have to get back on track. We have to clean it up. Lincoln Yards gives us a really special opportunity to take advantage of that. The level of safety, life safety, general oversight is massive. We have a command center that we're putting in, all kinds of technology, camera systems, life safety buttons that you can walk around the community just like a college campus, you know, to make sure that we're giving people, you know, a sense of safety so they can, you know, call the police and make sure that they're there very quick. We're actively developing these systems with the Chicago Police Department and fire departments. So when you get a clean slate and could start over, you're going to have some of the most high-tech advantages in this neighborhood, not even, you know, stuff like Wi-Fi and connectivity to the police itself, but just how we create the lighting systems as you walk up and down the riverfront or through our parks. There's going to be no, you know, real bad spots. We have that clean slate again to kind of go at it and make sure that we're thinking about how people walk through and feel safe in this area. So it's not just about Lincoln Yards, though. I mean, the city's got to improve. We own a restaurant bar company, as you mentioned, Four Corners. We have 17 different restaurants and bars in the city. You know, we get a lot of feedback just through those outlets and those venues. You know, there's certain neighborhoods that are changing, and we would like to stop that drift and anything we can do to help. And we are, you know, we're engaged in Fulton Market, we're engaged in River North, we're engaged in Old Town, in different neighborhoods, working with police forces, working with ways to add private security. So I'm afraid I could talk your ear off on this. I'm very passionate about getting this city. Sterling Bay is not going to do it. We're just one small piece of that puzzle, but certainly we're trying like hell to make sure we can do all we can to reverse that negative perception that's growing across the state. It's, you know, we just can't have Chicago get worse as far as perception of safety. It has to start to turn.
Love it.
Love the answer. Love it, Matt. So next time, I would also love for you to talk my ear off on this, because it's a topic that I have near and dear to my heart. So next time I'm in River North, I'll swing by Highline or one of your places, and I would gladly listen to you go on a sermon on this. Yeah, because we need that. We need more people. We need this attitude around here instead of the, hey, I'm getting out, right? It's a beautiful city, and you got to anchor down. We're not leaving. You know, Sterling Bay, even though Sterling Bay is growing outside of Chicago now, that's not a concern of ours. Is the health of Chicago. We love Chicago. We just, you know, want to start to expand our company and
and enter some other markets too. But we will not leave and abandon Chicago. It's near and dear to us, and we want to see it flourish.
All right. Awesome.
It's a great note to end on.
Yeah, it's a great note to end on. So we're going to go to the wrap. We got 6 questions here for you, Matt. They could be quick hitters. What is your competitive advantage? What is Sterling Bay's competitive advantage? How have you guys been able to accomplish so much with Fulton, this ongoing project that others just wish they could?
Loaded question for me as chief design officer. We're design first. We think about how people use space and enjoy space and create experiences more than most. It's not just brick and mortar. This is about how someone experiences something, and the design leads to that. So I think we're really, not me, it's the team, it's the hires we make, the architects, the teams that we assembled to execute on deals, on projects. I think our outcomes are really special, and I think that's the really key advantage for us is the attention to detail and making sure that everyone loves where they're at.
Matt, put yourself in the shoes of someone who's just getting started, right? They're looking to buy a 2-unit, they're looking to buy a single-family home to rent out. What is the one piece of advice you would tell someone that is looking to buy their first property here in Chicago?
I'll tie it back to entitlements. That's kind of a weird way to say it, but I always say that when someone says, hey, I want to start a bar. So it's the same way. Make sure you just network and find a couple key people to advise you well, right? So just make sure that your tax advice and your documentation advice is strong, because if you start off without the right paperwork or the right documents, the right tax advice, things like just the base building on setting up what you're going to do, if it's a 2-flat or a home or a rental or whatever, if you have bad advice up front, you can get in trouble. And it's really critical that you structure things right up front. And some people want to avoid paying an attorney and setting up documents right and go and try and penny pinch a little bit. That's not what you do. You set it up right.
Nice. All right. When you're not working on billion-dollar projects, what do you do for fun?
I have 3 lovely daughters and a great wife, and we love recreating out west. We were skiing last weekend, a father-daughter ski trip. So we're outdoorsy. We get out and hike and bike and ski and a little bit of golfing, fishing. So, if we can get outside and walk around and see new sights and new places, that's really it. We love to travel and we love to recreate outside.
Good stuff. All right. What is a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you would recommend to our listeners?
Oh, self-development. I just finished the book Devotion and then watched the movie. So that was the last read. I can't answer that. That's I'm not going to have a good answer. I'm sorry.
It was an or question. So the book. Oh, you check marked it. You're good.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad I'm okay on that. Yeah. Devotion was a cool book. I did I did what I shouldn't do. I watched the movie though, like halfway through.
That's awesome. All right. Besides yourself, name one person and think of this investors that we have listening here, someone in your network that you'd highly recommend to other investors here in Chicago.
Oh, for me, I come from a financial investment background, so it's not really Chicagoan, but one guy that stands out to me just as far as I've watched his commentary religiously is Jamie Dimon. I absolutely think I'll give you my parallel. I didn't make any money in crypto and I didn't lose any money in crypto. And it's all because of Jamie Dimon. When I see someone at his level say he doesn't understand what's going on, it sunk into me real quick and I avoided it. And everyone was making plenty of money on that. And I said, shoot, I might be doing something wrong here. But I held my guns, I stuck to my strategy, and I like advisors like that. He's incredibly sharp. So there's people like that. He's one for me that just stands out. I think his financial mind is unparalleled. I think he's incredible.
His book is awesome. I read his book last year. Like just how he is as a CEO is just awesome. How he takes charge.
Good stuff. Matt, you provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? How can they learn more about Lincoln Yards? And is there any way they can provide value to you or Sterling Bay?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Sterling Bay is a pretty modest company. We like staying under the radar, as do I. I think that part's coming. I think what we're excited about is in the second quarter, I would say we're going to start getting outbound and updating all of the communities and the public about next steps for Lincoln Yards. Pretty confident that it's going to be really exciting. And again, that firehouse, we're going to start opening it up to the public. So if people want to meet, shake hands, I'll be active in some of those open sessions. Sterling Bay will certainly be there. We're just looking for that support. Come on out, visit us, see what's going on that property, and watch it evolve. It's gonna be something special.
Good stuff. We'll link to the show notes, and even on the website, you guys have snippets of the master plan. So a lot of stuff for people to see what's coming down the pipe and help them visualize some of the things that we're talking about here. So, Mark, are you ready for Chicago Fact?
I am ready. We got Dana Denisa out of Berwyn that bought a t-shirt that if we get this, myself or Matt gets this question right, you get a $50 gift card.
This one's gonna be a little controversial because I just pulled it off the internet. We have no fact check here. So it's about Lincoln Yards too. So Matt, you might be able to answer this or just say, no, that's all BS. So when doing the research for this, I saw the original plan was to include a stadium and concert venue. And this known Chicago figure was going to own a decent stake in that venue. And I'll give you multiple choice, Mark. And Matt, if you know the answer, let Mark get a shot at it. Is it Tom Ricketts, Billy Corgan, Kanye West, or Ken Griffin?
Billy Corgan.
Matt, do you have any, is this anything that you would know, or is this just complete BS on the internet?
I wish Mark was right, but he's not.
So it is true. So Tom Ricketts was heavily involved. Is that correct?
Yeah, Tom was involved. He's obviously looking at expanding his sports ownership and certainly was interested in MLS. So we had a lot of fun dealing with Tom. He's a class act. And hopefully we were going to do a joint venture at some level on soccer in that soccer stadium. But ultimately it didn't fit and work out in the master plan.
Well, Dana, I am sorry, but we're going to still, because it's such a fun podcast episode here today, we're going to still send you out that $50 gift card.
Well, Matt got it right.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Lifeline.
You got to give it to her.
No, I'm going to give it to her for that reason. So, Dana, we'll send that out to you. Thank you ultimately for coming to our merch store. So, that was an awesome show, guys. Matt, thank you for coming on. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, coming up, we have May 6th and 7th, the Midwest Real Estate Working Summit at 𝗖𝗄𝐼C. So we'll put a link in there. Make sure you grab those tickets. Matt, thank you again. Tom, thank you as always. And listeners, see you next week.
Thanks all.